Hey, and welcome to today's video. So in this video, we're going to break down Elon Musk's speech for his commencement talk at the California Institute of Technology. So he did this talk a couple of years ago. And right now, if you're keeping up with the news, he also just bought Twitter. So figured it'd be a good time just to revisit Elon Musk, how he speaks. And what we're going to do is break down his talking, his delivery, his messaging, and what he does well and what he could improve on. So you can learn some of the things that he's doing and have that mirror back at yourself to see what you can improve on. So we'll go ahead and start breaking this down. Mohammed, Peter, myself, Chaz here. We're going to get this video for you for his commencement speech. All right, we'll go ahead and dive in for the first few minutes here.
All right. I'd like to thank you for leaving crazy person out of the description. So I thought, I was trying to think, what is the most useful thing that what could I say that could actually be helpful or useful to you in the future?
All right, so go ahead and stop sharing right there for a second. So a couple of things, the opening line, a little bit of humor was good. And what else did you guys notice about just his opening?
It was great to start with humor because Elon Musk people have a certain perception of him. Sometimes he could be intimidating. So it's a great way to start by doing self-deprecating humor. He said, "I'm surprised you left the crazy person out of the introduction," which was great. One thing I would say to improve is to be patient. Notice that he just kept starting as people are clapping, he kept wanting to start and say what he wanted to say on his mind. It would have been better if he just calm, smile, connect with people. And when the claps are down, he would say that phrase and it would have been much better.
Yeah. 100% echo that sentiment. Because he broke the ice with that one-liner, got a few laughs, but if you notice, it took a little more time for him to ease his way into it. Even he was standing up and he was on his tiptoes a couple of times, so he wasn't really stable at that moment. So 100% making sure you bathe in that moment, just take a deep breath while the clapping subsides, then continue on the speech. Would have had a smoother intro for that.
Exactly. Awesome. So we'll keep going with it here.
Actually, can I share one more thing?
Go ahead, Peter.
Notice, I want to call the elephant in the room. Notice that Elon Musk stutters a little bit when he delivers speeches, and nobody cares. I don't think he cares either, and that's the way it should be. If you have any stutter, or if you have an accent, or if you maybe make grammatical mistakes every once in a while, that should be fine, as long as you don't care and you're just confident and you just put it out there.
And as we're going to see here, the reason he gets away with that too is because his ideas and messaging are so engaging. So we'll go ahead and go through that here.
And I thought perhaps tell the story of how I sort of came to be here. How did some of these things happen? And maybe there's some lessons there, because I often find myself wondering, how did this happen?
And also right there as well, just opening up. So what he's doing is just sharing his thoughts of what is going on, the situation. That's another way just to make things more interesting. He's not saying, I'm going to share with you a story here, and then goes in the share. He kind of opens up a little bit and shares maybe some of the emotion of the story.
Yeah, I think the theme here is self-deprecating humor. If you're successful, it's good to have a sense of humor and make fun of yourself. Like here, he said, I can't believe it happened, which is hilarious. One time I watched Anthony Hopkins. He said he sold some paintings, and he said, oh, I can't believe people are buying. Just made him so relatable. Of course, people are going to buy Anthony Hopkins paintings.
In addition to that, if you can even see it on his face as well, a few times, he kind of, when he said that line, I don't even know how I even got here. So even that, just using his facial expressions can add another layer of depth to the message, and he embraced that.
That's it. All right, we'll keep going here.
When I was young, I didn't really know what I was going to do when I got older. People kept asking me, but then eventually I thought that the idea of inventing things would be really cool. And the reason I thought that was because I read a quote from Arthur C. Clarke, which said that a sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, and that's really true. If you go back.
All right, we'll pause there. So one of the other things that he's also doing there is immediately sharing a quote and just having something else to ride on. You know, that's when we're walking people through their messaging, there's a framework called the SEED. It stands for Statement, Evidence, Emotion, Demo. And what he's doing is putting in that quote where the emotion is and just connecting to something else and adding on to back up what he's saying. What else did you guys notice about that?
Great use of quote about technology is indistinguishable from magic. Great. So now it's prepping us to, I think, almost like a metaphor for his speech, that his life or whatever he's doing is going to be like magic. That's what I got.
One thing I noticed is that if you notice his speech pattern and if you notice his overall demeanor, when he's truly certain about something, he stabilizes and stands. Like, for example, if you look back at the moment where he was saying, I thought inventing something would be pretty cool. You notice him, he was kind of stable and he was like looking directly at the audience and just overall this. When there are some moments where he's maybe a little bit shaky or wobbly, like if you notice he kind of moves just ever so slightly, these are little subtle differences. But when you really are grounded in what you're saying, it already shows up in the body.
That's it. All right, we'll keep going here with it.
Say 300 years, the things that we take for granted today would be, you'd be burned at the stake for. You know, being able to fly, that's crazy. Being able to see over long distances, being able to communicate, having effectively with the internet a group mind of sorts, and having access to all the world's information instantly from almost anywhere on the earth. This is stuff that really would be magic.
All right, and right there. So what Peter was saying is technology is like magic. Well, he gives like 5-6 examples of exactly what that is. So he elaborates even more, because I was a little confused on, you know, technologies like magic. Yeah, you know, I guess, but he gives those examples and I see what he's referring to, that 300 years ago to imagine these things would be like imagining magic.
Exactly. He's using a seed here. The technology is like magic. It might seem like magic. That was the statement. And now this is evidence for it. He's just going to rack evidence after piece of evidence until we're convinced. And I'm already convinced.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed, I don't know if this was deliberate or it just so happened on the spot. You notice the word crazy in those moments. It harkens back to the very beginning of when he was saying, I'm glad he didn't mention crazy. So indirectly, perhaps there's some mental connection there with, hey, you have all these things flying high in the sky with the internet. These things might be considered crazy. And then if you look back at the very beginning, there's that little subtle difference, the placement and language of what's associated.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And now let's see if what he's going to do next. I'm hoping he's going to go into one of those examples and flesh it out as a story. If not, then that would be a critique of Elon Musk. So let's see.
Let's see what happens.
We considered magic in times past. In fact, I think it actually goes beyond that, because there are many things that we take for granted today that weren't even imagined in times past. They weren't even in the realm of magic. So it actually goes beyond that. So I thought, well, you know, if I can do some of those things, basically if I can advance technology, then that's like magic, and that would be really cool. And I always had sort of a slight existential crisis, because I was trying to figure out what does it all mean? Like, what's the purpose of things? And
all right, so we'll go ahead and pause there. So Peter, you want to give that critique?
Yes. Yes. So usually when you share a seed, it's a statement, then evidence, then followed by emotion. Typically, sometimes you can skip the emotion. But in a speech like this, I would have liked to see him flesh out one of the examples. For example, the Wright brothers about flying could have been a good one, maybe, or maybe use an example that hasn't been used as often. I don't know what that is, but he's got capabilities and resources. Probably could have somebody research what is an invention that was like magic in the past and share that story. I think that would have made his follow up right now, his transition to the next thought, much better.
That's exactly where I go with what he was just saying, because it felt like he sort of jumped around. He went from ended that thought, went to another thought, and now he's going in down another thought. And the transition and the connection really wasn't as clear. So it'd be better if he were to take the audience along his thought process. And to do that, you do exactly what Peter just said. You go deep in one example, and then you tie that into your next thought. Yeah. All right, we'll go on here just a little bit longer.
I came to the conclusion that if we can advance the knowledge of the world, if we can do things that expand the scope and scale of consciousness, then we're better able to ask the right questions and become more enlightened, and that's really the only way forward. So I studied physics and business because I figured in order to do a lot of these things, you need to know how the universe works, and you need to know how the economy works. And you also need to be able to bring a lot of people together to work with you to create something, because it's very difficult to do something as an individual if it's a significant technology.
All right, so go ahead and pause here. And Mohammed, what are you noticing again so far?
One thing people may not notice is that the podium can be acting as a prop. It could either be for you or against you. Now, I'm looking at, if you see his hands, on what we can see and from our point of view, when he's talking about expanding, he moves his hands ever so slightly below. So to himself, he's like, okay, when you're expanding, there's that body language. For other folks who are watching, even like if I was to do it down here, you can't notice it. But I would say one area to explore is that if he's saying we want to expand, use the podium, like say for the folks out there, we want to expand our ideas, expand our scope, that would have enhanced that.
I love it. I love it. Great feedback. Another one using the hands is also when he talks about the three things that combine to create technology. Like he said, physics and business and then people. I would have liked him to use his hands and say they combine together to create the expensive thing. That would have been nice, and I think it would have helped him flow much better in this segment, because let's face it, this small segment is a little bit downer compared to the beginning. I think now going forward, he needs to pick it up and go up.
Exactly, and we'll just do one more clip here, and then we'll call it at that.
Awesome.
So I originally came out to California to try to figure out how to improve the energy density of electric vehicles, basically to try to figure out if there was an advanced capacitor that could serve as an alternative to batteries. And that was in '95, and that's also when the internet started to happen. And I thought, well, I can either pursue this technology where success may not be one of the possible outcomes, which is always tricky, or participate in the internet and be part of it. So I decided to drop out. Now, obviously, fortunately, we're past graduation, so I can't be accused of recommending that to you.
All right, we'll just pause it again there. So one of the other things that I noticed about what he was saying is he first came out to California to do something with electrical engineering, and he explained it, and I had no clue what he was talking about. And then he said that is basically to help find batteries, to help find, better use of batteries. So what he really does a good job of, he says the technical thing, but he immediately also gives the takeaway of what that means to people who don't get it. So a lot of times when we work with our clients, they're very smart professionals who are into the engineering side of things, the technical side of things, the scientific side of things, and they have a hard time bridging that gap. So whenever they're explaining things, people who are in marketing or their leadership, they don't understand what they're saying. And also to segment from that, a lot of the times our clients are not native English speakers. So what they sometimes mistakenly do is think that people can't understand their language or maybe what they're saying, but really native English, non-native English, it doesn't matter. They need to get better at bridging this gap and doing exactly what Elon Musk just did here, which is maybe given that technical thing, but given the takeaway of what that technical thing is to people who don't understand it.
Yeah, it's called translation. Like you always have to translate the information you have to the audience who are listening to you. Sometimes if the audience is management, the translation is different than if the audience are engineers or accountants or general public, right? Or kids, right? You always have to translate your message. So you say what the message is, and then you translate it to the people.
Yeah, 100%. Because the one thing about translating is that you want to make sure that folks get the right message or what you're intending to. How many people, maybe hundreds, thousands of people were in the attendance in that commencement speech, but people can instantly get hundreds of interpretations. So when you're translating it, you're saying, hey, look, this is what it is, but you move forward and you can say, this is what I'm trying to get at. So that's making it more digestible.
Awesome. And he came back to humor at the end, which is fantastic.
Yep. Exactly. So we're going to go ahead and call it here. But if you do want to watch the whole video, we'll put the link down below so you can watch it. It was about, I think, 21 minutes altogether. So you can really look at it. Other than that, thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe. We do these every single week, little speaker breakdowns and other commenting on videos. So you can learn how to improve your own speaking skills and leave a comment. What did you think? Be sure to like the video and we'll see you next time.